Hey, how you guys doing? My name's Jeff Hanlon, hollering at you from Los Angeles, California, talking to you today about a subject matter that is very, very important and very, very concerning to a lot of Americans right now in the nation. I, like you, are tired. We're very tired of what's going on in this country. We're angry, and it has to change. I remember back in I think the Rodney King incident was in 92. I could be wrong, 91, 92. The uprising was there, and there was a black guy. He came out on the TV and he was talking, and I don't know if he was a minister, I don't know if he was an activist or just a guy off the street, but he basically said, if you're going to sit on the sidelines, if you're going to stand on the sidewalk and watch everything burn and not get involved, then don't complain at the outcome. Well, myself, like I'm sure a lot of people around this country, would have loved to have gotten involved, just didn't really know how. There was no social media back in them days. And so we didn't know what to do, so we didn't do anything. Now we fast forward and we continually have issues with regards to race, and we have, a lot of people giving input. But I have to go back to something that Reverend Jackson said one time when he was on stage, sitting on a panel, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was, there was a lot of organization representatives on the stage. I think there was even some Hispanic representatives on the stage. And Reverend Jackson said something that kind of set everything in motion for me. He said, you know who we should have up on the stage right now? When they were talking about affirmative action is what it was. He said white women. Because white women are the biggest benefactors of affirmative action. And with that should definitely push it right through. I was kind of taken aback a little bit. I saw what he was saying, obviously, but I thought, no, that's not what we need. We don't need white women to go up against white men and start arguing and fighting and have that divisiveness. That's not going to solve your problem, first of all. If you have a problem with somebody, to me it makes more sense to go right to the source and deal with it that way. So my thought was, no, what I don't see on the stage right now is a white male. That's who you should have up on the stage. Confront the white man directly and debate him directly. But there's a problem. There's no white men that you could put on the stage. You're not going to find any white man in the clergy that knows anything about race relations. You're not going to find any politician to put him up on the stage. He would get crushed. You don't have any white civil rights organizations. You don't have any activists. You don't have anybody with logic and reason and understanding that's pragmatic, that has common sense, knows some things about sociology, human behavior, why people do what they do, how to get people on your side. Because to me, that's the key. If you have an issue and you have to solve that problem that you have with that issue, then you have to look at all the different sides, speak to all the different people involved, discuss it, come up with solutions to the problems, and hear each other out. Unfortunately, what we keep having is one guy says one thing with regards to his own race, the other guy says something with regards to his race, then they start arguing on how they're correct with their beliefs and what they're trying to get across, and so nobody's listening. To me, It is like a guy standing on a stage behind a podium, and he's giving a speech out to the audience, but there's nobody there. The seats are empty. So he's not going to convince anybody of anything. So again, going back to what Reverend Jackson had said, and I really respect Reverend Jackson. I respect all of the civil rights organizations and all of the activists. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what it goes back to is that the white community doesn't have someone that they can put in there and say, here, talk about our issues, while at the same time letting the black community, the Hispanic community, whatnot, know that, and this is what I believe, and I'm hoping that I'm speaking for the majority of white Americans, we believe that the majority of white Americans are not the people from Charlottesville. One of the issues that the white community is having right now, I can tell you, just being a white man, is that we feel we're being squeezed with this negative image of ourselves. And we're being taken and lined up alongside of the bad guys. So I'm going to tell you right now that I feel like I speak for the majority of Caucasian Americans. We don't believe what those bad dudes believe in. That's not us. So one thing I would want to get across is that we love blacks. We love Hispanics. Why would I say something like that? Because as a man of God, that's where I start from. I start from, what would God want me to do? I start from the fact that God, I believe in only one God, created all of us, and therefore, we're all completely equal. But there's been such a history that white America feels that we're being looked at as racist, slave owners, or descendants of Jim Crow, perpetrators, colonists, or those who colonized other countries, and we're the descendants of them, so therefore we must be the same. And so we walk around almost with our head bowed in shame, because that's the image that we keep getting, or that we keep seeing about ourselves. And to prove that to us, there are certain people and outlets that only point to the negative. Remember this. And I used to work for a newspaper. I was a newspaper guy. I was a salesman. I worked for the St. Louis Globe-Democrat for years. Newspapers, magazines, social media sites, television stations, radio stations. They make their money by selling. And chaos sells. Peace and harmony and love don't sell anything. They don't sell newspapers. People throw them right away. Chaos and disorder sells a lot of papers. And so the white community is frustrated because we feel that we're being bombarded with all of this negativity that we can't even feel like a decent person. On the flip side, I'm sure the black community feels that the white community is in denial and doesn't get any of it. That's where we have to have the conversations and we have to talk about the issues. So, a little bit about myself really fast, and then I want to talk about Colin Kaepernick and police brutality and a couple of other issues, social issues. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from Florissant/Ferguson, Missouri. I grew up in Ferguson. So the incident with Michael Brown and the Ferguson Police Department, that hits right to home because that's right. I grew up there. These are my people. And it was very upsetting to see that whole thing play out. And as somebody who's had to investigate incidents and make a lot of arrests in the job that I was in, I can kind of see both sides of that equation. I've also been a victim of police brutality. Twice that I remember, but I'm sure there was many other times. I was a drunken hooligan as a teenager. One was by a black police officer, one was by a white police officer. I had handcuffs on both times. Had to go to the hospital both times. Wasn't resisting at all. They just didn't like what was coming out of my mouth. It really wasn't that heated. So I think I can speak a little bit on police brutality, but I'm going to tell you that I believe, again, that each incident needs to be taken by itself, because the one thing we would not want to see, even though we do see it, is any kind of a pattern. Because then that right there is ammunition to say, aha, you see, there's proof. So I do see a pattern in some of the issues and some of the incidents, and then I also see that this one may have been a little different from that one. The white community has got to wake up, though. My brothers and sisters have got to wake up, and we've got to stop. And I don't care if you're wearing a hood, a hoodie, or a pinstripe suit from Brooks Brothers on Wall Street. If you have hate in your heart, you're wrong. You're downright wrong. You're not going to win. David Duke, for instance, is a complete embarrassment to my community. I would shoot him down in a debate in 5 minutes or less. He is evil. All of those guys from Charlottesville are evil. However, I guarantee you that if I sat them down one at a time, either at a bar or at a diner, preferably a bar, have a beer, Irish pub, that I would peel away their soul and get to the bottom of their beliefs. And I look at them as lost souls. I look at those people as somebody I can reach out to and I can talk to and I can change them. I feel some of them can be brought back into the normal society. I've listened to some of them talk. It's silly. Some of it makes some sense. The white community does have issues. The white community has issues of concern just like all of the communities have. And so we don't want to dismiss any community's concerns. And we can't just come from our own community. You have to be able to step into the shoes of a black man or black woman or a Hispanic person. Immigration is a whole other issue. And I can see the holes where people are not listening to each other. They're only defending their own side, and they're not getting anywhere. It's very, very upsetting. And I'm very ticked off, as a lot of Americans are, because we're sitting here watching it, feeling helpless that we can't do anything about it because we don't have a voice of reason at the table. You have to have a Caucasian American at the table of race relations, or you're not going to get anywhere. The person that you sit down at that table, though, better have a handle on what it is they're talking about. Otherwise, there's no point in having him there. We need to stop putting white Americans on the television that don't know how to discuss the issues the way they should be discussed. So to get back to me, so being raised in Ferguson and Florissant, Missouri, at the age of 14, 15, 16, I worked for the St. Louis Democrat, like I described. What that did was had a guy pick us up, about 8 of us in a van every day after school and then on Saturdays, and we'd go into the most impoverished areas that we could find. The reason was, we called it the cream. The reason we'd go look for cream is because at that time, in those days, you didn't have to pay in advance. So we had a little spiel going, we had a little piece of paper that would say, help us win a trip to Florida. By the way, myself and 4 or 5 other kids, we were the top salesmen in St. Louis and actually won an all-expense paid trip to Daytona Beach and Disney World and deep sea fishing and all that for the sales that we did. And I was 16 at that time. And it was an amazing, amazing trip. But we would try to sell that to the people while at the same time giving them a free copy of the paper and then telling them that we're having a special and blah, blah, blah. We would go into the most impoverished areas in St. Louis. So now you have a white kid that's 15 years old, 14, 15, and 16 years old, knocking on doors in North St. Louis where the white people didn't go down there. They don't go down there. And back in the day, blacks didn't go down to South St. Louis, but now it's a little mixing up a little bit. And we'd go into some areas into the suburbs that were really, again, like Wellston and Pagedale, University City. These, again, are areas that can be very, very costly, let's just say, for a white kid walking around, especially when it's starting to get dark. But we did. And one would be on one side of the street, I'd be on the other, and then the van would kind of go up and down and keep an eye on us. And I got a lot of tales to tell just about that stuff there. But imagine this. Imagine the education that I got knocking on a door in North St. Louis and have a black woman open the door and see a white kid standing there. And as I start my speech, says, come on in. Come on in. And then I go in there, and in the living room, and the dad's sitting on the couch. You got like a 14-year-old boy there. You got a 16-year-old girl there. You got a 4-year-old, and you got a grandparent, or one of them, so all sitting in the living room, and here's a white kid in there trying to sell something to them. Amazing. Amazing. It was an amazing experience, I'm sure, for them. A very amazing experience for me. Sure, I was the very first white person that's ever been in their house. And it wasn't the first because, obviously there wasn't a first that I went into. But amazing experience to have that interaction, talking back and forth, and just observing the house, and looking around at them, seeing them. That's how it's supposed to be. I mean, Kinloch, Missouri. Unbelievable, Kinloch, Missouri. Something funny. Years later, while out here in California, Los Angeles, I found out that Maxine Waters was from Kinloch. I asked that you look into and research and see if you can find some street photos of Kinloch, Missouri. So here you have it, the experience of working in black neighborhoods as a teenager for years, knocking on door after door after door after door, going to different parts of the neighborhood. Then we'd go out to rural Illinois and Missouri, and we would be talking to the population out there in little shacks, little farmhouses, trailer parks. Man, that was something right there. I'd be brought in, dogs were attacking me. I got bit a few times in people's living rooms. I was amazed again because here I'm from an upper middle class suburb, or middle class, I don't know, it seemed upper to me. And I'm in this trailer with these white people, observing how they're living, and I'd never seen it before. And I'm knocking on trailers for years. So then now we have the inner city poverty areas, the rural trailer park areas, and then coming out to California years later in Los Angeles, I was doing some PI work, and I was actually in Nickerson Gardens housing project, Jordan Downs housing project, doing surveillance in a four-door silver Malibu, Chevy Malibu. Clean cut. I didn't have the goatee at that time. They probably thought I was a cop, and thank God they did, because I didn't get messed with that often. Some names thrown at me here and there. But working in Watts, working in Compton, working all down in South Central, working even over in East LA in Hispanic neighborhoods for years. So imagine the experience that I'm getting free working there. I remember one time I was sitting in my car. I was in a black neighborhood, and a woman from a church hired me, a black woman at the first AME church. And I'm sitting in the car, and I look over, and here comes a black woman, and I knew already what was going to happen. This has happened many times. And she, and so she comes over, knocks on the window, and I said, "Hi, how are you?" She says, "Can I help you?" I said, "No." "Well, what are you here for? What are you doing here?" I said, "Oh, well, I'm okay. I'm okay to be here." And I think she looked in and saw some invoices that I had that said investigations on it, and she walked away, But I had to deal with that kind of stuff all the time. I've been a victim of racism. I've been a victim of discrimination. I've been in the liquor stores in black neighborhoods, and then they're looking at me and seeing what I'm doing in there and following me around and going, "What is this guy doing? There's a crazy white man coming in our store. What is he doing?" So tons of incidents like that. So the traveling, even into small Latino towns along the border of Mexico, going into those stores, it's all Hispanic. They're even speaking Spanish over the intercom. The gringos are here. The gringos are here. So that experience, though, I got to tell you, really, really shaped who I am. I've been in the military. So I've been a director of security at a hotel. So I've worked the corporate side. I was a corporate executive for 12 years in Hollywood at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. Hired a lot of officers. The majority of my staff was black and Hispanic. We made a ton of arrests there. We got into a lot of fights. There was a lot of drinking going on. We had 6 bars and 3 nightclubs, thousands of people, pool parties. It was the Hard Rock times 10. If anybody knows the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. And so working on a day-to-day basis as a manager of these individuals and getting to know them and their background and dealing with them and their issues that they're having with their own lives and things of that nature again. So I kind of have the police mentality side and then the victim side as well, which kind of helps shape who I am. So when we later talk about police brutality, you really got to understand the mentality of the police, probably from the days of George Washington all the way up till now, with all the trying to change the community policing and whatnot. I don't think it's even working. If you look at some of the videos that are now on the internet with the police interaction, I think a lot of changes need to be made. So enough about me. I wanted to talk about the Colin Kaepernick, and this is a good example of what I'm talking about when we talk about race relations and hearing the other side. And I can understand why people would be upset. But my thought process is always, first listen to the other side. See what they have to say. See if it makes sense. And unless it's something like white people are devils that came out of a different planet, I'm not going to listen to you. That I'm going to get up from the table. But if you're telling me that I'm so upset that I'm going to take a knee because of all these shootings that I keep seeing in the social justice, I'm putting all these driving me crazy, I'm done. I would want to take the position as a white American male is, and if we had a president that wasn't a real estate agent, let's not put too much stock in Donald Trump. I mean, I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but I have voted Republican and Democrat. I voted for Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. I voted for Clinton twice. I voted for, thank God I didn't vote for younger Bush. I was in a bar, and thank God I didn't make it to the poll in time. I would have really regretted that. I voted for Obama twice. This time I did, I was afraid of Trump, but I voted for Hillary because he's a real estate agent. He's not going to know anything about race relations or social issues. So let's not go to him. I'll talk about his opportunity missed, but myself is, I want to hear what Colin Kaepernick has to say. the golden opportunity would have been, wow, we got an NFL quarterback who, in front of everybody, has taken a knee because he's upset with police brutality and social injustice. You can't get any bigger than that as a topic. What's going on there? Why don't I invite Colin to the White House and bring whoever you want to bring? I want to hear you out, man. I want to hear what you got to say. And I want to try to solve your problems. Because maybe I'm just not paying attention. If you've got these issues, or these issues are out there and you're bringing it to our attention, be a spokesperson, but I want to hear these things, and let's have a meeting, and let's invite little Reverend Jackson and Al Sharpton and Don Lemon. Let's invite some people, to talk about these issues. Unfortunately, again, nobody from the white community that could sit at that table. Because we don't need a white person that's just going to go, yeah, rubber stamp everything. But at the same time, I wouldn't disagree with any of them. I wouldn't disagree with anything that Colin Kaepernick has to say. Because if it's happening to him or he believes it, then it's true. It's true to him, it's true. Who am I to say it's not true? See, you take that position, wow. Man, you just opened up the world right there. So we could have had this meeting and said, let's talk about the social issues. Some of the concerns in the black community are the criminal justice system is wrong. The criminal justice system is unfair. Quite possibly it is. I would believe that it is. White community, what you have to understand is this. This is what I would tell my brothers and sisters. Blacks and my brothers and sisters too. Let me just say, this is what I would tell the white community. If you had slavery, which wasn't that long ago, because if you had a slave and then they had a child, and the person lived 70 years, then they had a kid, and they lived 70 years, you're almost to today. So there's not that much time passed with generations. So again, we should realize they're not starting at the starting gate. The flag, the whistle's blown, the gun's shot in the air, and they all run down the track. But the black guy's still standing there. And he can't run for a long time. And so finally when he gets around, when they say, here I go, and he can start running, he can probably never catch up. Or it's going to take a very, very long time to catch up. Maybe until those people get wore down, he can maybe catch up. So that's something that the white community's got to understand, that sin has carried over till today. So when you have, and let me just say this, I'm going to jump over a little bit and I'm going to jump back because it just came to my mind. I'll forget it. When you have police brutality, if 95% of the police officers in the United States of America, in all the counties and the municipalities and the unincorporated areas and in the big cities, if 95% of them are white police officers, then of course when you have and they're patrolling in black neighborhoods, when you have a shooting or you have some brutality, the chances are the cop's going to be white and the other person's going to be non-white. But another thing that I want the black community to understand is that white cops that are doing this, they ain't any nicer to us. They're not going to go over to the white, because they rotate, patrol procedures, they rotate. They come over to the white community, and the one that busted me in the eye with a Maglite flashlight, he was one of those jerks. So you're going to run into jerks. If he's a jerk to the white community as well as the black community. That's just the way the guy is. So they don't just pull us over and go, oh, hi. I know we see it on Comedy Central as a joke. Oh, hi. Oh, so you're a white guy. I didn't realize you're a white guy. Okay, for you, you're going to get it a lot easier because you're white and, you and I, blah, blah, blah. It usually doesn't go down that way. But I get it. I do understand there's a big problem when you have white police officers patrolling in black neighborhoods. And one of the things I would suggest is if you want to bring down the arrest rate and the incarceration rate, then maybe you need to look at your patrol procedures and spread them out a little bit more so that they're patrolling in not just the black areas, but in some of the areas that are non-black that might not be getting any patrols because they're focusing over in this area with the argument that, well, that's where all the crime is. There's crime everywhere. And so others, though, might come back and say, no. Now you're talking about taking police out of the areas that we really need them in. Crime's going to skyrocket in those areas. So there's an argument there both ways that can be looked at. But I think it's not so much the patrol procedures or how, well, I think it is a big problem with patrol procedures. They need to reevaluate that whole thing. You'll see 5 or 6 cop cars pulling up and wasting an hour over some one guy when those other guys could have said, okay, you got it, and jam and go patrol some more. But I think that is another issue with the police. But it is more importantly how the police talk. That's the biggest complaint. And the mentality that they have from the other police that have already been on the force. I don't think they're getting it from the academy. I don't think they're going to the academy going, hey, do you know what you got to do? Ignore all these. You just need to bust some heads. You need to jump out of the car. Now, I do know that there's some talk of, hey, we want you to go home at night. And so, therefore, you need to be. So, some of these shootings and some of these things, like even Eric Gardner, I think they do it out of fear and they're afraid. And so they pull their gun or they choke hold before they utilize other tactics. Because some of them are just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you look at it and say, what were they thinking? But the way they talk to people was very upsetting. It's disrespectful. It's violating our civil rights. It's violating our constitutional rights. You're asking us for ID. You're pulling us out of cars. You're searching our vehicles. You're searching our persons. You're speaking to us in a harsh tone. Your volume is way up high. You come off as very aggressive. And it doesn't need to be that way. I used to tell my officers, look, people like to know why they're being confronted. So I would tell them, listen, whenever you ask somebody to do something, first ask them nicely, but then tell them why you're asking. And I would tell them, I could tell you, Officer Jones, right now, hey, take that box and get it downstairs and get rid of it. He can't say anything about it. He's got to do it. He'd be insubordinate if he didn't do that. But I say, don't do that. You say, hey, Mr. Jones, can you do me a favor? Can you take that box, take it downstairs, because 2 people have tripped on it while it was sitting over there, and I don't want to see anybody else get hurt. Thank you, ma'am. You see the difference? And so the police have got to change the way they approach all of us. And so the black community has been dealing with this forever. And I know there's a lot of whites who've been in denial. They didn't know about it. They didn't think about it. They thought, well, they're all criminals. They deserve it. And now we're starting to see things like on BuzzFeed, all these videos where they're doing it. And check on there. There's a lot of whites that are doing it too. And so to get back to the Colin Kaepernick thing, we'll talk again later about the police response and how they can change. I think that another thing that maybe Colin could have done on his end, instead of doing the knee, is asked to speak with the president. Put out some full-page letters and newspaper ads. I think you have the money to do it. Go in on it with some other NFL stars if you need to. Hold a conference. Invite the clergy, invite activists, invite lay people off from the street. Invite whoever you want and say this is going to be a conversation on racial issues. And that, to me, another good one is to set up, get with other NFL players and say, we would like to visit high schools or junior high, even better, and do a little small presentation for about half an hour, telling individuals, telling youth how to deal with the police officers so that we don't have more of these negative or these violent, deadly confrontations. Show a little video. I know Chris Rock did one. It was a comedy or a funny one. Some of it was true, but that would have been that's another thing I think that we can do is try to get celebrities to say, listen, police officers are just like us. They're just regular people. I know when we see them with the badge, and we look up to them and go, oh my God, he's got a gun and a badge. They're just regular guys. They get pissed off just as we do. They're no different from somebody at the post office or the garbage man or the guy at the supermarket. Anybody giving you a hard time, giving you an attitude, being a smart ass. These can be cops. Some have lower tolerance than others. They fly off the handle a lot faster. I had a cop. I was driving my motorcycle with my buddy in Florissant, Missouri, and he comes flying up on his motorcycle from a side street, and he's got a stop sign, and I've got the right of way in Florissant Road. And I thought he didn't see me, so I tooted the horn. Oh, ho, ho, ho. He went ballistic on me, pulled me right over, jumped out of his car. Veins were popping out of his neck. His teeth were gritting, and he's in my face screaming, "Don't you ever fuck it out." He's just going crazy. My buddy pulls up, "Get the fuck out of there." He's screaming at him. And it was insane. I've had police officers where, maybe this is another police brutality, but they'll say I was resisting. There was a call that they thought we had a gun. I used to drive around in big cars that have like 7, 8 guys in there. We'd crank this music. We'd drive around drinking beer. We shouldn't be, I know, in the car, but that's what we did back in the 70s and 80s, early 80s. But where they got me out of the car, and it was in a White Castle parking lot, and the place was packed, and the guy's just real aggressive with me. He's just, instead of going, "Hey, sir, we got a call of a gun. You got any guns on you? Excuse me, step over here." He grabs me by the arm, starts squeezing. I go, "Hey!" Man, as soon as I did that, about 6 billy clubs are banging me all over the place. I'm going, trying to block all these billy clubs all over the place. They finally ended up letting me go. We've had cops pull me over, and I had opened the door of my car. About 5 beer cans fell out on the street, and there was some fight that was about brewing. It was about to go down inside the store between us and some other idiots that was starting trouble with us. But I had all these buck knives in my glove box. I had about 10, 12 buck knives, big knives, with the lock blades. They took all the knives and said, "Get the hell out of here." They didn't say, "Come back and get the knives tomorrow," or "These are our knives." They took the knives and told us to get the hell out of there. Didn't even do any kind of drug test on us. They wanted those knives. They were nice knives. So, police, you're going to get some good ones. You're going to get some bad ones. You're going to get guys that have a little more tolerance. I had actually the black police officer. I was in the back of his squad car. We got into a fight in a bowling alley. I came out. I was throwing the beer in the trunk in case cops came, and then I saw some baseball bats in there, and I was like, And I thought, well, right when that happened, the cops come flying up. This is St. Louis County Police. I get cuffed, thrown in the squad car, and I, said something I shouldn't have said. I said, "Pig." And this black police officer just leans in and just starts hammering me in the side of my face. And so I went down into the seat, and he comes in and keeps punching me in the face. So naturally, I put my legs up to kind of, keep him away from me. Well, when I'd done that, the other cops saw, and they ran around the door to the other side and tried pulling me out, like 5 of them. I went out that way. They picked me up and just let me go, just body slammed me on the ice. Luckily, I turned my face, or I would have busted out my teeth. He took me to the hospital, but on the way to the hospital, we're talking. And I said, "Look, man, I'm sorry I called you, pig." And he goes, "That's cool, that's all right." He said, "When we get to the hospital, if you tell them that I hit you, we're going to be in here all night." And so I said, "No, it's fine." So we got to the hospital, and the nurse said, "You okay? You got any injuries?" And I said, "No." And so we left. Now, the white cop that hit me in the face almost took out my eye. I'm standing there at 17 years old, right outside his car, in the park, right down the street from my house with my brother. I had a beer in my back pocket. They saw it. And he wanted me to get in the car. And I said, "Officer, look, I live right there on St. Anthony." He says, "Get in the car." I said, "Officer," and he just goes, boom! And like the cartoons, where they see stars, I saw stars. I really did. I went, little white stars. And blood just started pouring. And he slammed my head, and my head hit the top of the roof of the car. He shoves me in there, buckles me up, and they rush me to the hospital. It caught my eyelid right under the eye, and the doctor said, he said, "A tenth of an inch, your eye would have been gone." I mean, those Maglite flashlights are heavy. I don't know what he was thinking. In fact, my mom said after the Rodney King incident, she said, if we would have known back then, but they were real pro-police. My dad did go up and speak to the mayor. My dad's the head of a labor union, or he was. He's now since passed. Tile and Marble, Local 18 in St. Louis. So I went up there to complain. What are you going to do? So a lot of issues to talk about. But I want the black community to know that the majority of whites, I don't know if it's 80-20, I don't know if it's 90-10, I hope it's like 95, 97. We don't play that. We need white, confident men. Men that are fearless, not fearful. Fear drives racism. You're afraid. You're insecure. You're a punk. You're a pussy. I could call you bad names, but I don't want to do that. So there's a way to undo those things, though. There's a way to keep you in check. You shouldn't be intimidated if you see somebody from a different race with somebody from a different race. It shouldn't even affect you. I'll bet you 100% of the guys that come out and act all tough never been in a barroom fight. Never even made love with a black woman. They don't know anything about culture. They don't know anything about race. They don't know anything about history. They don't know the effects of history. They really don't know much about any of that. They just want to march around like they're tough. Those are not the tough guys. I'm so sorry about this. I don't know why that does that. Those aren't the tough guys. So we're pissed off, and we're standing up to say, don't listen to them. Get out of here. But you have to understand how to approach them. Because if you don't approach them right, all you're going to get is this. Like we saw in Charlottesville. We saw one group pissed off as they should be, confronting hate as they should, to annihilate them. They need to be annihilated. They need to be exterminated from the country if they're not willing to convert. If they're not going to get the message then we got to tell them you're not wanted here. I find it ironic. I think it's really funny that the neo-Nazis, and I'd love to confront them. I wish I could go out to Charlottesville when I heard that they were planning another, march possibly this weekend. I looked at the airline tickets. It was a little too late to get out there. I wanted to go out there and confront them. But you got to confront them in the right way. Yelling in their face and fighting, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So why they even get a permit, I have no clue. I don't know why the city can just deny the permit based on safety, or say, well, we'll give you a permit. You can have your rally, but it's going to be out there in the woods. You can't do it here in the city. We don't have enough police to monitor the situation, and that's the reason you're being denied. You want to take it up to the Supreme Court? Go ahead. We can't give you a permit. So I don't get that. But knowing how to talk to them is very, very important. So you have. Here's the thing. It's like I can go in a trailer and I can talk to poor whites. And I can drink beer with them. I can have fun. I can laugh my ass off. We'll have a great time. I can go in the suburbs and we can hit golf balls. We can barbecue in the backyard with lots of grass. Have a great time. No problem. I can also go to Wall Street, put on a suit and tie, intermix, talk politics, talk economy, whatever. So the same is true with the black community or the Hispanic community. So there's a lot of fear in the country right now. That fear can go away. Race relations can and will get better. Hate groups, they need to either get with the program or they need to go. I find it really ironic, and that's what I was trying to say, and I got sidetracked there, that the neo-Nazis worship Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, I would love to tell him, killed more white people than any other man on the planet. Probably set our population back 500 years. And they're going to worship that guy? That guy did not even pick up an arm and fight to the death. That guy was a coward. He committed suicide. He's never been in a barroom brawl. He's never made love with a black woman. So because he's missing all these things, he's ignorant. He's an ignorant little child. but he was able to accomplish something for reasons that we'll never truly, fully understand, and even how he was able to do it. It's convincing people that the boogeyman is over there. You need to stand with us, and let's crush the boogeyman. So the Confederate flag is another issue. I mean, again, you have Robert E. Lee and his troops, and he lost. He's a loser, like Hitler. Hitler lost. You got two big losers. And you're going to follow that guy? You're going to follow those people? So the only reason why you're throwing that Confederate flag up is for one reason. It's to show that you're anti-black. Don't tell me otherwise. It ain't going to happen. That flag has no place. You want to worship that flag, then go live on an island somewhere. You can have all the flag-waving parties you want. Our flag is the American flag for everybody of all races around the world. If you can't deal with that, then get out of here. That's what I would tell you. Now, there's one more thing. Southern culture. Southern culture, in any culture, we shouldn't be unable to embrace it. What is that, though? There is good culture, and then there's bad culture. So, there's good pride and bad pride. So if I go out and I mow the lawn and I plant some trees and I do all the things around the house and I paint and I look at it and I go, wow, I did a good job. That's good pride. When I go, oh, this is my flag, the Confederate flag, and I stand for this, and I'm pro-white, and these guys are causing a problem with the nation. That's bad pride. That's not Southern pride. Southern pride would be, I love the trees down here. I love the roads. I love the creeks. I love the food, and I love the music. I love the South. I love looking up and seeing stars where you can't see that up north because of all the pollution up there. That's the South to me. I love the animals and the crocodiles. I love all that stuff. That's good pride. If you don't say one negative thing, but see, you wouldn't say one negative thing about blacks or anybody else if you didn't have that hate in your heart. So you have to go back to the beginning where you came out from God, and God created you, and he created this black person, he created the Hispanics and the Asians. It shows you don't even know how the human race even evolved. How everybody just kind of went out and then just intermixed and just to even make you a Caucasian. I mean, you need to really read and research. And when you start educating yourself and peel away those layers. I took an acting class once, and he said, why are you pissed off? Because my girlfriend left me. Why? Because she thought I was cheating on her. Why did she think that? Because she found a number in my phone book. Why was that in there? You see, I'm peeling away. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to get to the core of this. Just like when we have a racial issue or a racial incident, you got to peel it away and get to the truth and get to the bottom of it. Now, sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes the truth can mean different things to different people. That's okay. It's okay if we disagree. It's okay if you're different from me. It's okay if you like rap music and I like country music. I should be able to walk, which I used to do. I used to hang out in black bars when I was a teenager. I'd go in there looking for black women. And very, very seldom was it hostile to me. I did end up in an apartment once with this girl, and there was about 15 people in there, guys and girls. And so another group came in, and the guy called me into the kitchen and said, I think you better take off, man. And I'm like, why? What's going on? He said, no, the girl you're with, she's with this dude. You need to get out of here. So I said, I was gone. So a lot of things. I'm getting a little sidetracked here. I don't have anything written down. I don't have any notes in front of me. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. I'm going to be at that table. I'm going to be at the table. And so I hope that some of the points that I made sense. And I think it's very, very important. The number one issue that we face to solve this problem, again, is that we need a white representative at the table that can listen. On the Don Lemon show, I see a lot of people with different views, But I see some of the whites that they bring on there, and they sound so ignorant. They come off as racist. They do. I love the one woman who, I can't remember her name. She, a Hispanic woman, but she goes to bat for all the Hispanics and the immigration. I love her. God bless her. I mean, I'd love to have a representative like that for the white community. I love that black female. Again, I can't remember her name. I think she either worked for the Congressional Black Caucus or the NAACP, one of them. Kind of light skinned, but she's passionate, and that's what you have to have. But I want the black community and the Hispanic community to know that change is coming, and it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. And so just wait for it to happen. It's coming. I promise you. And I'm going to do my best to get with the white community to make the changes that we need, whether it is police brutality, housing injustice, social economic injustice. But we'll hone it down. We'll really get investigative on it, and because we want to solve the problems. If you're going to sit at the table and you're not there to solve the problems, then get up. Because when I sit at the table, I'm going to be there listening to the concerns and try to help solve those problems instead of trying to deflect or defend or, it's not about that. So change is coming, and sorry that I was all over the place, and we'll talk soon. Let me X out of here and see you.